Next, we have student selection criteria. But actually, I kind of thought before we leave the admission procedures completely, on the clinical site visit, again, I mentioned that's worth points towards acceptance. There is a dress code for the clinical visit. In short, if you're coming to our local area, we consider that you need to be wearing what we call business casual or better. Uh, Basically, no jeans, t-shirts, tennis shoes, stuff like that. You want to wear like dress pants, dress shirt. The shirt for men and women needs to have sleeves and a collar. And as far as shoes, ladies especially, please wear flats, something comfortable, no heels. Wear pants, don't wear skirts or dresses. No earrings except for maybe at most just one stud in each ear, or no more than one stud per ear, and just studs, no dangling, looping kinds of earrings. That's really for your own personal protection and safety, because if you're suppose you're helping a patient up off the treatment table and the patient grabs onto your shirt or something, well, that's, maybe annoying or something, but not a big deal. But if they grab onto an earring, then it's, kind of a bloody mess and paperwork. And I really hate paperwork, so please kind of avoid those kinds of things by not wearing earrings at all. No perfumes or colognes. Many of our patients are very sensitive to perfumes or colognes. Also, be kind of mindful of other things that you might wear that have a perfumey or cologne smell to them, like deodorants and the like that might have a perfume or a cologne attached to a scent attached to the deodorant. Otherwise, if you're going to a distance site, if you've set up a clinical visit with a distance site, you'll be directed to contact them to set that clinical visit. And at that time, you'll want to check and make sure if they have any other specific requirements for you with respect to dress code. So we move on to student selection criteria. This is detailed really extensively about how we go about accepting students into our program, into really the various phases of our program. That is, our full-length program versus our advanced standing program, and if you're a local student versus a non-local or distant student. And those are really broken down into competitive and non-competitive entry into the program. There's a pretty good description here about competitive and non-competitive entry. In short, if you're in a competitive entry, that means basically if there's, say, a distance site that only will accept one student. Well, suppose there's like 3 students applying for that one spot. Then it's a competitive entry. There's 3 people applying for one clinical site. Or like in Amarillo, for instance, if we take like 5 students in Amarillo and we've got 20 people applying for those 5 spots, that's competitive entry. And there's a certain set of rules that apply for competitive entry versus if, say, there's non-competitive. Non-competitive would be like if you're applying for a distance site in, who knows, North Carolina or whatever, and say that you're the only one that's applying for that clinical site. Then if you're the only person applying and they're accepting one student, then there's no competition. So there's a set of guidelines or rules that we have for non-competitive. You have to meet certain grade criteria basically to be accepted, even if there's no competition for a spot. Now, the focus is mostly on competitive because that's kind of the way it's been in the Amarillo area for a very long time, where we typically have a lot more people applying than we have spots available for. So there is a lot more emphasis on that, and it's more complicated just simply because there's the competition factor. I would say that the number, I'm asked a lot, how many people apply? Well, it varies significantly from year to year. Some years for the local area Amarillo program, we might have, 15, 16 people apply. We might have 50 or 60 people apply. It really, literally varies significantly from year to year. And there's simply just no way to predict what it's going to be like from one year to the next. I would say that, and I even really don't even know how many there's going to be. If you apply like in March or April and you're asking, well, how many people have applied so far? That really won't have any bearing on how many people end up applying, because traditionally the great majority of applications come rolling in close to the deadlines. So I really am not going to know how many people have applied until deadlines have passed. And even at that, I'm not going to really pay attention to that much, because there's just simply no point in really looking into it that much until the applications have passed, until the deadlines have passed. Basically, I just recommend getting your applications in long before the deadlines, really as soon as is reasonable for you to get all your stuff submitted. The sooner, really, the better. For one thing, the sooner you get an application submitted, the sooner you'll get to have a follow-up visit with me, which is going to give you better direction and more individualized direction for you with respect to your application. Our first keyword for this section, for student selection criteria section is the word goal, G-O-A-L, goal. So regardless of whether you're applying for competitive or non-competitive or distance or local or whatever, students are basically accepted on a point system of some sort that's awarding points for previous academic accomplishments, especially those classes that apply to our degree. Also, we give points for a formal interview process and points for the clinical site visit. And those three criteria right there basically amount to all of this, the point stuff. And it's kind of outlined or highlighted basically there. Now, regarding academic points, there's a lot of variations on the theme of academics and how they relate to points. But in short, the more classes you take and the better grades you get, the better your chance of having enough points to be accepted into the program. Another question I'm frequently asked is, how many points does it take to be accepted? That's another I don't know kind of answer. And I'm not trying to be, cop out or anything here. It's simply I just don't know. You're just competing against the other people that are competing for a spot in the particular clinic or a set of clinics that you're wanting to get into. And if there's not much competition, well, it's not going to take many points. But if there's a lot of competition, then it can take an awful lot of points to be accepted into the program. Again, it's just going to vary significantly from year to year. All you can do really is control your points. That's all you can do anyway, really. So just take as many classes. If you're applying well in advance, I just advise everyone to take as many classes as they think they will do well in. As you'll see, if you really look through the point system and the point process, it really is much more beneficial for you to take fewer classes but make terrific grades than it is to take tons and tons of classes but not make very good grades. If you take like 5 classes, for instance, and make straight C's in all 5 classes, you could actually get more points by taking 1 or maybe 2 classes and making A's than by taking a bunch of classes and making C's. So take as many classes as you think you can do well in if you have enough advance notice to plan your classes. Here's another keyword, and just off the top of my head, this is a pretty good one for this section. Points, plural, points, P-O-I-N-T-S. That's our second keyword. So as we scroll through here, you'll see a lot of the variations on the theme of points and non-competitive versus competitive and whatnot. Oh dear, it's so lengthy, but at the same time it gives you really the information that you really need to know. And here's the basic structure of the point system. Again, our health science division is trying to get us to kind of be more uniform in our point system, so this may change over time. But the crux of it is still going to be taking general education classes that apply to our degree and making good grades. So that's what you can do. These are the things that you can do right now to increase the number of points that you might have or increase the opportunity for points that you might have. There's more competitive entry stuff that's described there. Then it talks some about the interview process and how that relates to points. One thing that's worth noting here, if any applicant scores unanimous zeros from the entire interview panel, whether it's here in the Amarillo area or distance, there's going to be people interviewing you no matter where you're applying, whether it's distance or local, then if you get straight zeros, then that person will not be accepted into the program no matter what their academic point total might be. In other words, if everybody thinks that you're a zero, at least as far as points anyway, if it's got to be unanimous of all the people that are grading you or rating you, then no matter how many academic points you have, no matter how many phenomenal grades you've had, you would not be accepted or invited into the program, period. Then it does describe that if you are accepted into the program, then you get a letter, an email, really. Everything's going to be done by email. You'll get an email describing conditional acceptance. And that conditional acceptance basically means that you're invited into the program, but there's still some stuff to do. You got to do some other stuff that we require, like get a TB test, CPR certification, undergo the criminal background check and whatnot before you can actually be formally accepted into the program. So that's basically things that typically cost a little bit of money that I wait to postpone until you know if you're accepted into the program, like I talked about the criminal background check a little earlier. Same thing with CPR certification. People sometimes ask, well, I got CPR certified like 6 months ago. Can I just use that? No, CPR certification lasts for 2 years. And what we want you to do is basically once you're accepted into the program, then you'll be directed to go through CPR certification, even if you're already CPR certified. Then that way you'll be certified for the whole length of the program, and you won't have to worry about recertification. If you got CPR certified 6 months ago or 8 months ago, then your certification will lapse while you're still a student, And no, we can't have that. Same thing with the TB test. The TB test is something you do once a year, so we want you to kind of get started on that only if you're accepted into the program, so that way you'll only have to redo that one time during your time in our program. Be sure to read through these notifications and notices about points and acceptance and interviews and all that stuff as well. And there's more stuff, yada, yada, yada. And there we finally get to the end of that. And our last keyword for this section is email. How about that one? Email. E-M-A-I-L. And I think that wraps up this little section.